G'day guys, welcome to Chilltime with Jose. I'm your host today, Jose. Another one that's not going to be live, but the next one will probably be live on Monday potentially. But anyways guys, so what we're going to talk about today is first of all, a little bit of an internal monologue, or not internal monologue. Internal monologue means I'll be like this. You guys won't hear it because I'll be thinking it. But anyways, I just want to talk about a few things as well. Like the first thing I want to talk about is a lot of the competitions going on in the official player break period. And I can imagine this player break period is going to be only obeyed once, given what's been going on during this player break period as well, where realistically, only ESEA and Face It have been obeying it to an extent, with ESEA and having the Dreamhack Showdown during the player break, and also having the advanced finals during the player break. However, with the MDL finals as well, they were able to delay that till the end of to after the player break. So there's been a few things here and there for ESEA. For Face It, there's been no tournament on Face It since, the official player break. And what I'm thinking, guys, I think this is going to be probably one of the only player breaks that might be adhered to, given the fact that so many other TOs and tournament organizers have completely and utterly ignored it. And a lot of the other teams have, basically played in it. Game of Legion, AGF, and a few other teams, not to mention as well, Saw. I think a few teams did win on player break, namely Apex and Ambush. But a lot of teams, Little Mix, Tiki-Taka, I can name a lot of EU teams and a lot of NA teams that have ran tournaments. Actually, Face It did run a tournament, a Mythic Summer Cup, but that's through Mythic instead. But I think this might be the only player break, or the player break won't be so long, because I don't think ESEA and Face It, and mainly ESL, will not like what just happened just then during the player break, where essentially TOs were just skirting the rules and having constant tournaments during this player break. Like, as you guys saw, there was Perfect World, there's Eat It, there's Malta Vibes, there's a lot of tournaments, even 9 to 5 as well, another tournament running through the break as well. Now CSGO Fast Cup. And I think what's going to happen is that these TOs are going to be like, nah, we're running tournaments all the time now too. We can't lose out to these smaller TOs who are literally, running tournaments and cups when there's a player break that CSPA negotiated is meant to be. And I think something is seriously up, or they're going to have to do something with these smaller TOs. Maybe give a fortnight break instead of a month break, and let them split in between. So ESL and Face It, are not losing so much money to the smaller TOs due to viewership being on different channels as well. Like ESA and Face It obeyed it to an extent, but they had no major tournaments running through that time. Now, of course, I want to play a break. Like, no one with a brain wants the players to play 12 months every year and stuff like that, and then expect some sort of family life or anything like that. Same with casters as well. You don't want, a player to be like, sleep, wake up, CSGO, and, that's pretty much their day. And someone actually did point that out, one of the pro players as well, as the reason for the player break. And there's a lot of these tier 2 and tier 3 teams that have been playing non-stop during this player break, and they're going to feel the extent of the burnout after it. Like, when in August, when basically the tournaments come up and running again. Now, some people may argue, well, some of these tier 2 teams, in order to stay alive, they're going to keep playing these smaller tournaments to get enough money to pay their paycheck. Yeah, I understand that. That's why I want to talk about these smaller breaks, these 14-day breaks, rather than having, a 28-day break in particular, or a 30-day break, actually. I'm trying to say, like, yes, there's 30-day break. And that's what I want to talk about. What's your opinions on it, guys, in YouTube land? What do you guys feel about it? What do you guys want out of it? Do you want 14-day breaks, or do you prefer the 28-day break, or you prefer no break? Basically the breaks in between ESL and Face It Cups are technically their player breaks. What do you guys feel about that issue? My opinion is I reckon 2 fortnight breaks, and I reckon the smaller TOs have to hard, like, if they're running any cup activities, has to be qualifiers, cannot be the actual tournament itself during that period. I think that's the only things, like, you can only run a few qualifiers and that's it for your cup. You can't run the actual cup itself, and that's my take on it here. But anyways, let's get to the news first of all. And as you guys see here, a quick transition. We've got here Saw versus Tricked, and in the end, Saw beat Tricked to win the ESA MDL EU. Saw winning 3 maps in a row to do this, as Tricked got the default map, and just they didn't look like themselves at all in that game. Saw just essentially rode roughshod over them, even though it was very, very close between these two teams. You see here, it was 19, 17, 16, 13, 16, 11. It just Saw just a little bit polished on all those maps, being Vertigo, Train, and Inferno. And congratulations to Saw. Someone actually told me, one of the Portuguese viewers, I think it was Saw v. I'm trying to think who they were versing. Saw were versing. I think it wasn't Nexus. Oh yeah, it was Nexus at the time in the upper bracket. And some guy, one of the Portuguese guys, was like, Saw's going to win ESEA EU Advanced. And well, he's right. They won it. They won it in the end. They got, they got there. They won it. They took down Tricked. And they go straight to the Mount Dew League. And it'll be the first Portuguese team, I believe, in the Mount Dew League. And I'm going to say now, even though Tricked lost, I reckon Tricked will still make Mount Dew League. Because the teams they're versing against in relegation, they are not anything special. So basically, so far, guys, in the end, you guys can see down here, so Nexus, Team Secret, and Trick qualified for relegation. It'll likely be a battle between Ambush and Tikitakin for that final relegation spot. Unless an invite is done. I could see an invite being done to invite Heroic back into the roster, because I don't think Heroic qualified for the EU. I reckon Heroic might be the invite for relegation. We have to wait and see. There's also the Climber Cup as well, that has 4 relegation spots for EU. And that will be a little bit later, just in case you guys are wondering. That'll be after the player break, according to my inside sources at ESEA. Now, let's get to the next one, which is going to be, well, Thunder Logic versus Third Impact. And that's the other NA Advanced tournament. And Thunder Logic aren't able to get it done. They were winning the first round. They won one by default. And then they got reverse swept by Third Impact in an epic close encounter. And Canadian was the caster, of course. And Canadian, very, very good height and a very, very enjoyable game overall. And it was a very, very close game at Third Impact, well deservedly. And finally, T Connors will finally beat the Mountain Dew League. So basically, I'm trying to find the losers here, trying to get the relegation for you guys here as well. And as you guys see here, relegation's got 6 teams this time, because a lot of teams died in NA. Therefore, there's a lot of extra relegation spots available. So I think it's going to be 2 NA MDL teams and 6 NA relegation teams. No, 5 relegation teams. There's one going to be invited as well. And I suspect that Z-Plug Gods will be probably invited to the NA MDL, because Z-Plug Gods are definitely good enough with, a lot of players in that team. And I think we're going to be talking about it next, but, we've got Z-Plug Gods as well. So another event that ran was the Mythic Summer Cup, as I talked about earlier, was one of Facet's Cups. And one of the cups, I'm a bit peeved about that ran during this time. And Z-Plug Gods one day against Triumph. And I suppose, with the invites, I reckon Z-Plug Gods will get an invite to the NA MDL. Or not to the MDL directly, but to relegation. And of course, they beat Triumph, they beat New England Whalers, probably the top teams of MDL, and I won't be surprised if they are invited to it, given that the NA scene has taken quite a battering from Valorant, and they'll definitely want to top up their rosters with some of the guys returning from it. So if you guys don't know, later on we'll show it, but some of the players have returned from Valorant in the NA scene, and it was bound to happen. In my opinion, it was bound to happen. There's only a certain amount of players can get into a team. And there was a lot of Rainbow Six, Overwatch, and CSGO players really vying for these spots. And now the NA orgs have really grabbed their team all together, so there isn't really much to get in the end, which kind of blows for some of the NA players that really wants to get to the team and get that paycheck. And I'm pretty disappointed with some of the CSGO commenters on HLTV. That's become another issue once again, that really shat on the players that were coming back, like Zelsus and a few others as well. And I'm like, when they went to the game initially, I'm like, go for it. If you can't pay the pills in CSGO, might as well try and go for it on Valorant. And in the end, they weren't successful. I think there's just too many cooks, not enough, too many cooks in one kitchen, and it's bound to be people who weren't going to get in the end. So also, let's talk about another event as well, which is going to be the Dreamhack Showdown, the female-only tournament, which Team Originum, Mimi's team, Michaela's team won. And they won in a pretty good style against Galaxy Racer, being Mimi's ex-team. So that would have been an interesting matchup. And Originum didn't even lose a single map in the tournament. And they were probably the main favourites going to win that tournament in the end. Because I don't think any other female team, other than Galaxy Racer, could really stand up against them. And basically, their first opponent was, I believe, it was I think it was Arcade. It was Death Fox. And they got completely obliterated. And then they took down Galaxy Racer. And they took them down to the finals once again. And I'll say Galaxy Race probably be the only team that could really stand up against them, with Kelly, Vilgar, 20 as well, who's played a very, very good role. It was a very well-run tournament overall, and also brought back Pansy to the casting scene as well. And I just remembered that voice. I'm going, hang on, I've heard this person cast before, and they were actually really, really good. And I'm like, oh wow, that was Pansy. That I thought it was Machine, because Machine has a similar voice as well. But I have no idea why Pansy went off the scene, to be honest, because Pansy's a very, very good cast, and I definitely enjoyed it a lot. They had an all-female lineup with the casting and the interviews and stuff like that. They had Frankie Ward and a few others as well. I think they had two guys, which I think is Just Harry and Moses as well. And it was actually a well-run tournament. I actually did enjoy it as well. Some of the chat were pretty dickish as well, but they were quickly taken care of and banned. And some of them were roasted pretty hard in chat as well. And some of the guys were saying, "Oh, I could beat these chicks easily," and the poor dude leaked his rank. And I'm sitting there going, "Dude, you said you're LEM," and I'm like going, "Dude, these chicks would wreck you, man." It's oh man, I love some of these guys that come in. They be like, I'm face at level 5, I can probably beat them, and like it's like you do realize some of these females like face level 10, like they got a higher rank than you and stuff like that. And it's good to see. I think a lot of people enjoyed it overall. There's a lot of casters in chat as well, cheering it on, hoping for the best. And that was, a really good event for the female scene of CSGO. And I've got to say, I was really impressed with Juliano and Zaz, and also as Michaela as well. And I'm just, hoping for big things for Team Jerusalem as well. Even though they did falter in the intermediate pro playoffs this season, I hope they get into main or advanced. And also, there's a Dreamhack Showdown this weekend as well for the NA scene, which gets to see Dignitas and CLG Red in action. And you'll definitely want to see that as well. So I think the next one's going to be the 9-5 Dawn, which is the open qualifier for 9-5. And it's so far Gamer Legion Tikataka have qualified, as Zarko Balls also qualified as well. And it's going to be a battle between Singularity and Level Up, which most likely Singularity are going to qualify for. There's a lot of other teams in here as well, but as I see here, like the teams aren't that big. Like most of these teams are main and advanced teams that are playing at the moment. So it's not really the main tier 1 teams. It's kind of like, tier 4, tier 5 teams playing at the moment. And this is what I'm getting worried about. We have teams like Singularity who are tier 3, tier 2 teams. And teams like Gamer Legion, a little mix, still playing games here. Like, MDL teams as well. You get a bit worried about if there's going to be burnout when MDL eventually does return in August. But hopefully that does not occur. See what happens. So next up, we got another tournament running, which is the CSGO Fast Cup as well. And as you guys see here, it's another BO3 tournament. And a lot of advanced teams and MDL teams as well. With Isako Ball, Fate, SJ, Touch the Crown, Budapest 5, AGF, who've been playing extremely well, but didn't make the playoffs in advance, which shows how competitive advance was. And then you got Little Mix for the Lynchby Vikings at the moment. And that's going on live at the moment. You got Nexus as well, another advanced team, and Honorous as well, the new Polish team coming in. And I've got to say, this is why I'm getting a bit concerned about these tier 2 and tier 3 teams playing so many games that the tournament's starting to not matter. And that's one of the arguments of the people who are saying, CSGO does need a break and does need a main tournament circuit to really make the tournaments big and beautiful again and mean something other than just being another event, practically. So last but not least, we've talked about Perfect World, which is the Road to Rio, and that is the Asian results, and Tyloo taking down Invictus, and now they'll be top of the scoreboard for Road to Rio as they will overtake Tiger. Tiger had a pretty poor tournament, finishing 5th to 8th overall. They didn't play particularly well, unfortunately, compared to their previous matchup where they did win and they did beat Tyloo to win it all. And now, as you can see here with the Road to Rio, Tyloo taking the contender spot, and everyone else below them, well, they're not going to be there at this moment. So the main thing with these points, if you guys aren't aware with these points, this point system will detail who will get the contender spot, and it'll basically they'll force teams that qualify for the major in order to keep their spot. They've got to win these little tournaments to build up to the major. Like, you can't be like, okay, we qualified for EU minor, we can sit on our laurels and we've already qualified it, we don't have to play well in future tournaments. Now the major have changed it to something different where you have to play decently in all these tournaments. You have to play extremely well, and you have to keep your form up. You have to beat the teams that are nipping at your heels effectively. So yeah, so there'll be another Road to Rio tournament, and well, there'll be distribution below. The Rio Major, though, I don't think it's going to happen in the end. I think they're going to have to move it elsewhere, and I think maybe after the Gaules issue, they might have to move it elsewhere as well, given that it's going to be a lot of people, especially if Chaos do qualify for the major, that it's mostly unlikely that they can't get enough security to probably protect Chaos, because I think Chaos players are going to be targeted due to the recent Leaf and Zeppa scandal where they accused Leaf of hacking, and I don't think they're going to ever let that go, because that scene, from what I've seen previously with, the treatment of Foreign and a few others where they had like stuff stolen from them in Brazil last time, I don't think, there's going to be certain talents not going to go there either, because of what's happened. Like, I don't think Fourier has picked up an analysis, he's going to be like remote, like he's not going to be there because he knows he's going to be targeted. Even like Richard Lewis and a few others who call out the Brazilian scene, who are really toxic, like incredibly toxic. Like I responded to one of them, be like, like you can't be like, oh, this is not all the people in our scene when you have like 400 people literally sending death threats to leave. Like, you got to tell your own people, say, to get in line, and this stuff is not acceptable. It isn't acceptable being like, oh, it's only just a few rotten apples. These people are very, very aggressive. Like, I don't care if they're just rotten apples. You got to tell these rotten apples and teach these rotten apples that they can't be doing this to people. They can't be sending death threats. They can't be saying, come to Brazil, or that we're going to beat them up, and then we're going to stab them, hope their family dies, hope they get cancer, and stuff like that. It's not on. You got to stop that at the stem, Next up, we got Z-Pug Gods. They finally landed a roster. It's going to be Cooper, Zelsis, Marquis, Android, and Infinite. The players that didn't really make it in Valorant in the end. I was quite disgusted to see the comments page of HLTV, and it's just really another nail in the coffin for HLTV forums guys and the guys who are on it as well. I do communicate with them, but only with the guys who are not completely brain dead. Like, guys, please, if you guys are rating, if you guys are rating women, saying the N-word because you think you're funny and all that stuff like that, please get a grip on your life. It is so, so annoying. Basically, it's so, so annoying going through that forum, expecting, some potentially good CSGO discussion, and literally the entire threads there are just like, people trying to be edgy, people saying the N-word, people saying rape people, and other stuff like that about female CSGO talent, even male CSGO talent as well. And I had one of them even ask in my cast about my sexuality, and I don't care, you shouldn't care about it. And the guy was being very, very explicit, and I banned him, and then he just immediately went off in a tirade against me, saying that, I was a homosexual and stuff like that. And my sexuality has nothing to do with my casting ability. So, it doesn't matter if I'm a guy, a girl, or I like guys, or I like girls. It doesn't really matter. You don't need to know that either, especially in explicit terms as well. It's none of your business. It's not, no one should really know about it. But anyways, that's just by the thing as well. And of course, Z-Pug Gods, I expect to get an invite to NAMDL, to do relegation at least. And I reckon they'll get into the NAMDL scene and give some much needed life to the NAMDL scene, which at the moment is currently spluttering with a lot of teams, especially I think it was the bottom 6 teams, at least most of them plugged their teams. And there's also a lack of orgs having a go in the NAMDL scene, which I'm a bit upset about. There's a lot of NA orgs out there that could pick up a team really, really easily, and they chose not to. And I'm not sure who's to blame here. Is it the NA players, or is it NA teams or NA orgs? I think it might be a bit of both, because with the NA orgs, they're expecting established roster, tier 1 roster, and they don't want to develop a roster, and they're being very, very lazy with it as well. And a lot of the NA orgs seeming to be incredibly lazy with their org roster movements as well, where they pick up a roster, then within 3 or 4 months they chop and change the roster, and then the roster dies because, they're constant chopping and changing by management. And then they're like, oh, CSGO is unprofitable. It's like, no, I think someone in your org's a bit unprofitable, because you can't, I think E United's one example where they broke up a really good team just to put, just band-aids on it over and over again, and then basically, cutting out the core of the team to put in, Swole Patrol, I believe it was, and then they took an IAM Sydney spot, famously known as the snake kind of thing, and I understood why the players took it, but it's E United, essentially killed their own team that day. That was the transfer of those 3 players, essentially killed the team. It killed the team on E United's end, it also killed a team on Brax's end with Soul Patrol, and in the end, I think Brax won out with the fact that he was signed by Tier 1 in the end, or T1 in the end, not Tier 1, T1. But, that's that sort of things I feel that the NA scene has big issues with, is the fact that they're not developing their teams. And they can probably argue, why should we develop our teams? We should get automatically develop teams. But you got to get into the middle here, because teams that are developed don't come up overnight. They come up through, hard work, dedication, and stuff like that. And I feel orgs got to really invest in that. And also the players of the NA scene's got to really invest in that as well. They can't just, give up. A lot of issues in the NA, AU, and EU teams at times is the fact that the players give up and just take the easy way out and go their separate ways, rather than working on a project, for a long while. One of them being Team Skyfire, that they worked to it. They didn't give up, even though it didn't work in the end. They got a lot of people on board to see if it would work or not. They tried it for I think it was about 6 to 9 months. In the end, it wasn't successful. And, at least they tried at it. That's what I'm just asking. Just asking for an effort, and that's about it. So next up, we got Mad Lions trying to set the sights on Lekro. This was kind of out of nowhere because everyone was expecting Mad Lions not to go after Lekro. So I think they're going to be up for another Swedish shuffle. People expecting Bubsky to move over to... Oh, man, there's another Swedish team that needs Swedes. Oh, man, I can't think of it. But, yeah, so what's happened is that Lekro will come in to basically be a rifler. So no in-game leadership roles. Lekro did take the in-game leadership role for Nip. And pretty much as Peter actually said in his article, which is the former coach of NRP, saying that in-game role basically doomed Lekro out from NRP. Now it's going to go to Mad Lions instead, with Bubsky being on the bench. And I suspect that Bubsky might move to Heroic. That's my opinion. He might move to Heroic. And it'll be like a Swedish-Danish shuffle where a few Danes go elsewhere. I reckon Kasia B, or Kirby, not Cajun B, Kirby, he's going to end up at Astralis. And I reckon, Heroic is where Bubsky's going to end up. And, not Heroic, sorry, North. And Mad Lions will swoop up and pick up Lekro. Now, I'm going to say overall with Nip, I think Nip have really done the dirty on Lekro, in my opinion. Have really done the dirty on him. And, I think it's a bad idea what they did. Now, overall, double tap being Decay, of course. And, yeah, as you see here, Bubsky's still bench. I assume Bubsky's going to move on. And I reckon as well, Lekro and Asilian could trade in-game leadership duties as well, given that they're both really, really good in-game leaders. Now, next up is going to be the ESEA MDL Challenge, Global Challenge Season 23 is going to be cancelled. And also, next biggest caster is going to be changed as well, where I think it's going to be one player from each region that's going to be picked up. And they'll cast... basically what's going to happen is going to be separate challenges. It's going to be the NA challenge and EU challenge, and each region's cast, I think, the NA and EU. I'm not sure about the AU or Asia. I know the AU and Asia are getting 10,000 each, the teams that can't participate now. But with the NA and EU, they're going to have casters, like two of the next biggest casters, commentating on games. Unfortunately, I'm not going to be in it, and neither is the Canadian. And I think both me and him will probably be in it next year. I'll be a bit surprised if I'm not in it or Canadian's not in it. I'll be very, very surprised if Canadian's not in it. Because, I'm going to say we're probably really, really consistent as casters. And, and I'm pretty consistent as the caster as well. And I'll be a bit surprised if I'm not in it because, I don't know what I can really do with, being reliable to cast, constantly casting. And if they just pick one person from the AU region in general, because that's what's been previously where Komodo's been picked, I think, twice now. Komodo got screwed the first season because of the fact that he didn't do any EU games. And I think, like a lot of these next biggest casting contestants in Australia, they've got to get onto the EU or NA games. Otherwise, you're kind of missing, I gotta say, 3/4 of the majority of the voting base that's going to vote you in. That's my opinion. So anyway, what's going to happen here is basically an ESL spot will be both on the line for the regions. So basically Sprout, AG, and Galaxy Racer will go for one, and Triumph, Bad News Bears, and Team 1 will go for the other. And just in case you guys are wondering, Bad News Bears is going to be disbanded. So it's probably going to be a BO3 between Triumph and Team 1. And the HLTV is speculating that there's a roster they could sneak it up and grab it in the end. But I don't think it will be able to. They won't be able to form a 3-man core to make the playoffs. You can grab, basically, if you don't know, 3 of the players in that roster could, grab a spot here. Essentially, I think Dazzle might be able to grab a spot as well. I'm not totally too sure. But if you have 3 players in that roster, you're able to replace them with 2 emergency players and make the playoffs as well. But the problem is, 2 of the players are now joined into different teams. And, of course, they're not going to play for Bad News Bears, effectively. So in the end, as you see here, basically the EU and NA has split up. You got basically ESL Pro League spots for the team that wins, and that's it. And of course, Lucid Dream and Order receive 10,000 because they can't obviously participate in the Global Challenge. And yeah, obviously, it's been delayed for now. So another thing as well, which was about time, CSPPA has ceased player agency services, mainly by a complaint by Flashpoint. Okay. And Flashpoint's complaint was very, very valid considering what happened there. And Flashpoint can easily point the finger at CSPPA for scuttling their deal with FunPlus Phoenix purchasing Heroic. And it definitely hurt the event, the fact that FunPlus Phoenix had to pick up different rosters every single Flashpoint because, they didn't meet terms and stuff like that. And Heroic are pretty PO'd of it as well. And the main, I'm not sure what the case in point is between CSPPA, Heroic, and Fun Plus Phoenix, or what the issue was. But it's obviously Flashpoint as a TO that they're royally pissed that they didn't have the Heroic roster there, and basically they had the Heroic roster, then basically they're not there, and it definitely hurt Flashpoint. And there's a whole bunch of other issues as well where CSPPA didn't do anything as a union, which is a even more yikesy thing. It's like you didn't come to the table, and Flashpoint really showing a lot of the flaws of the player union at the moment. Doesn't mean they can't recover from it. Is that they've got to do a lot better in these areas, especially when there's a TO like Flashpoint, where they give a revenue share to the teams involved and the players involved as well. And the fact there's not really heavy player union interaction between those two things isn't exactly the greatest of things either. And, you know, not a good look for CSPPA, not a good first challenge. And obviously they will get another bite of the cherry, but they can't do any more. They got to do a lot better than this, because not having a penalty system in place with being late for TO to be like, hey, you know, if you get punted, you lose a round or 2 rounds or 2 if you don't get there on time. That's the biggest pet peeve of TOs and talent, is the fact that players don't turn up on time. And like my thing, you know, I'm a very punctual person. I get a bit pissed off if someone's like, you know, 10 minutes late or 15 minutes late for a big meeting as well. So, you know, please. So basically as well, the guy resigned his unpaid position, and, you know, essentially what they'll do is collective bargaining agreements, blah, blah, blah. And HLTV, you know, talked about the concerns. Flashpoint were really pissed off as well. That was pissed off as well. And, you know, ever since CSPPA became a player agency for its teams, it's been just one big fuckfest. Let's just be blatantly honest for that, okay? Just one big mess up. So next up, guys, will be ESL 1 Cologne to be held online. Pretty much it, you know. It was bound to happen like this. You know, no way this was going to run, because Germany just basically said August, no tournaments, September, no tournaments, and Cologne's with the start of the break. It's going to be online. Yeah, it's not going to happen. You know, it's going to be NA, EU, maybe OCE as well, maybe Asia do the same thing they did for Dreamhack. We'll see. We'll see what happens, you know. And, of course, you know, I'll apply for all the roles to the cast position as well. And, you know, it's a bit of a shame that ESL 1 Cologne has to be online, but the fact of the matter is, like, there's a lot of, you know, people can't even travel to America yet. In Europe, it's still, you know, hasn't been contained yet. Even the best place being Australia, well, with Victoria, New South Wales sparking up, you know, it's not even safe here, to be honest. Like, you know, the areas they're going to have to go into will be WA. WA's got really strict. They might have to go into Queensland, and Queensland's also really strict as well. And most of the international flights are landing in Sydney and Melbourne, and your mandatory 14-day hotel, and you have to pay for it now. So, you know, even if they want to hold it in Australia, they can't. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And yeah, pretty much they were looking at US, Brazil, and Russia, and, you know, like, none of them are safe travels, so good luck getting, you know, Brazil, Russia, and US, because they still have it. And, you know, entertained the idea of having it in the studio, and, you know, that was never going to happen in the end. And the Grand Slam as well, that's been put on hold as well. As you see here, it's been merged in, and in fact, they are doing Oceanic Prize Pool as well. So doing Asia, Oceania, Renegades already been a thing. I'll probably be casting the open and closed qualities as well for all these regions. And, you know, as you see here, all these teams have been invited. I guess the to be determined might be a few qualifiers as well, which I'll cast. And we'll see what happens. We'll see if I can cast some ESL 1 as well. But I'm going to say it's going to be very unlikely. They've got Pilsky, sorry. Pilly. They got Elvish Guy. They got Caraft. They got, you know, Mac. They've got their forecasters there. I think that's going to be pretty easy for them. I don't think ESL have to really reach out to anyone unless any casters start casting Valorant. And, you know, I'll apply there, but, you know, what's going to happen? Like, if there's not going to be those forecasters, it's going to be Komodo or Conky, likely going to be, given that they're probably a good duo to begin with. And, like, with my casting expertise, I just really need a co-caster. And I think at the end of the day, like, the biggest issue is going to be the fact that I don't have a co-caster, and that I don't know many casters in the scene, and, you know, I haven't made the effort either, and I've been really focusing on my own brand. Anyways, let's go up to the next stuff. With this tournament, I think, this one's going to be a tough one. Who's going to win? I reckon Big might continue their run. Big have been very, very impressive in online tournaments. So the East, I reckon Big will win. With the NA side, I reckon it'll be 100 Thieves will win that one. 100 Thieves will strike back. They'll have, a lot of training sessions down here. I did talk to the manager, Gomez, and he was watching some Australian CS, so I think 100 Thieves are still looking at the Australian CSGO scene, and that could be potentially a move on a track or something like that with the CSGO scene with 100 Thieves looking at the Australian CSGO scene. They were Gomez was watching me cast Order, and might be some moves. They might be looking at the CSGO scene to see maybe there's some other Australian talent in here as well, or they might be looking for an academy team as well. You never know, because given that the conflict of interest, Valve have really lightened their stance to it. There could be academy teams on the track as well. So now with Asia, it's just Thailand Renegades have also qualified as well. And with ESL, I'm not giving the updates of Pro League Season 12. Most likely it's going to be, I'm going to say with ESL Pro League, most likely it's going to be a split again between regions. I don't think they're going to get the same thing as last time. So last but not least, Fire Sports partners with Blast for a Fire League. It's a Latin America league, basically. Basically Blast Latin America. The main reason I've done this is because basically Blast did tournaments in every region but Latin America. So, they're a bit, basically they want to have a similar, Blast Premier Fall Showdown with the Latin American community. And it's good to see that they've done that now, where they have the Tier 2 and South American teams actually fight for a tournament that they're actually going to get some money out of. And that's really, really awesome to see. And last but not least, China's going to host its own league as well to fund Spark Ulti, instead of the Net Pro Series that they had before. This tournament's going to be likely launched in December, but it's going to be probably next year as well. And as you see here, they could probably have, NA, EU qualifiers already here like that with the invites. And basically there's Europe, NA, and Asia qualifiers. I'm a bit concerned that there's no Oceanic qualifiers to this tournament, given the fact that, they've got EU and Asia qualifiers. They really should have an OCE qualifier as well. Given that some of the OCE teams here, they could compete with some of these guys as well. I can say mainly Order and Avant could definitely compete with, teams like Extents, Simon and Giants pretty easily, and even Windstrike as well. So I'm a bit upset that they're not in there. But you see the Asia teams as well. But I can understand where you got the Asia favoritism because it's the Asia tournament. They've already got Tyler and Furia invited, and yeah, that's gonna be pretty much it for the tournaments upcoming. There's not really much in this player break to really get excited about for the tournaments. We just have to wait for them to come. With we did go for a lot of tournaments, but it's the winding down of the big ones. Just as player break. Well, it's not going to end yet. Player break ends probably in the next 3 weeks. I'll still do chill time with Jose to give you guys an update in the scene, see any roster moves, and see where everyone's going to go. But thank you guys once again for joining in. Also, by the way, guys, as well, if you guys have got any questions or anything like that you want to ask me, I'll probably use this, time to talk about, questions or anything like that you guys may ask me as well. And of course, in the future, I might have, if this podcast gets popular enough, I might have, sort of, a questions if you're a patron and stuff like that, and you can ask me questions about things as well. So yeah, that's gonna be pretty much it with the questions though. I'm not terribly sure what questions I've asked myself at the moment. I'm pretty happy to see that a few more casters back on the scene. If you guys are gonna ask me, I think who my best co-caster would be. I had a few people say this to me, like saying that if I could be a co-caster and could do color casting, that I'd be very, very, very good at it. Also, I reckon I can do both, but it just seems what it is. The two guys I'm looking at, like if they're reliable or not, because I'm not gonna look at Natsy and Quick Draw and Tony, because I feel like they've got their own little triangle where they can operate the tri-cast or duo-cast, and I think that it'd be very, very silly. I think that's already more established, that kind of thing. I'll still reach out, of course, reach out from time to time. Another one will be Josh and also Chris the Average as well. Those two guys that did have a bit of fun as well. There's also the Overwatch commentator with Cyberwaste. He was very, very good at presenting and hosting, so you can look to him for him to do the play-by-play, and I can do the color casting as well. And those are the casters I'm kind of looking at at the moment as well. I'm also looking at the up-and-coming casters as well. Just to see if I can team up with them as well. Anyways, guys, that's going to be it for Chill Time with Jose today. And I hope you guys have a wonderful day. See you guys later. Peace out.